Today I'm going to give you a little bit of a tutorial on how to pull the bellies on flames. This is what I would call a right-handed curve because it's going towards the right, and the basic thrust of this, as far as brush movement, which is what we'll cover first, is that the brush is going to start off like this, and you can see this lump right here. If I turn this, you can see the lump right there. That should always be against the finger or on the side of that finger, okay? To start off. So you started off with that lump just like that. That's because it's this edge right here that is the edge that you actually pinstripe with. You don't pinstripe with this edge, you pinstripe with this edge. So the lump, and what that lump is the hairs underneath the ferrule binding. That's always got to be up or next to your finger, okay? Think of it this way: if you're pinching it, it should be against this finger right here. Now, to start it off, you're going to start it off with that lump up. As you go around the circle, it's going to actually twist. I'll let you see that. I'm going to move my fingers back on the brush so you can see what it's doing as it goes around. That's what it does. That's the key. Rolling the brush is the key to getting around those tight curves like that. Now there are some other factors involved as well, such as your paint density, proper paleting of the brush, things that I'm not really going to cover right now. The point that I'm trying to show you right now is just the dynamics of getting this brush to go around that curve and not have any errors. So we've talked about how the brush spins. The other thing about it is you can think of it this way. You can think of it as the brush lays down on the line. You're going to drive the front of the brush. The front of the brush, this edge, you can see this edge. See the edge right here? That edge always has to be pointing in the direction that you are turning it and pulling it. Now the other thing I want to talk about is the starting of the line. Now there's all kinds of different ways to hold a brush. There are some guys that hold it like this. There are some guys who for a curve only hold it with just these two fingers because they feel they can really turn it. Typically you should be holding the brush farther back. You shouldn't be holding it on the ferrule, and the reason is because you have a real flat side over here, and as you spin it, it's going to want to bump as you spin that. If I could show you what I mean by that. As you're spinning that, all of a sudden you go like that, you see. But if you're holding it back on the ferrule a little bit farther, then you can spin it, and it just keeps spinning very, very smoothly. Okay? The other thing is the hand position. Use your pinky to steady your hand as you're going around, and as you're going through the curve, you have to be sliding your pinky. Sliding the pinky and moving the arm, driving the car. Remember that. It's not the back of the brush dragging behind it that is your issue. You don't even have to worry about that. If you have the front of the car or the front of the truck, if you're, say, driving a semi, if you have the front of the truck going in the right direction, the other's going to follow. Okay? And that's the idea in getting around these curves. But it's real important to steady your hand with, some guys use a pinky, some guys use two fingers for this right hand turn. But the majority of the work on a right-handed turn is simply the spinning of the brush. And that's because you don't have to cock your wrist at all to do it. You can move your wrist a little bit, but it's just the spinning of the brush. That's the majority of the work. Whereas if you were doing a left-handed curve, that's a totally different technique, and I'll have to show you that. So the key is to remember to think of the brush. I guess what I was trying to explain, this is really how I thought of it. Think of the brush as a car, and you have to drive it on that track. In this case, the track would have been the outline of your flame. So if you're driving that car and you're coming up here and your brush is pointed this way, you're not going to be able to get around the corner. Think of it this way, you're going to skid off the road. So you have to be turning early so that as you come around that front edge of the brush or the front of the car is actually on the track. Okay, what I've done is I've taken my Stabilo pencil and I've drawn a nice flame belly, and I just want to show you in action all those different elements that I was talking about as I go through it. So I'm going to pull this thing, and as I'm going through it, I'm going to talk. And I may not be able to brace it with the bottom hand because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So, and I'm going to walk you through it, so I may not do it perfectly, and I'm going to try to get the camera down here where you can actually see it. First of all, I will say this, that the pinky, my pinky right here, is on the outside of the flame. It's setting down very carefully right here. If I can get over here. The pinky is setting down right here, and that's my brace. Okay? As I pull through this flame, I'm going to be pulling the pinky around. I'm going to be sliding the pinky. And if I could maybe explain this too before I do this. As you are sliding this, you are going to have to move your hand and slide it across the surface. You have to, and you want to keep it stiff so that you can continue to brace yourself and keep the hand steady. But look at the curve of this. And so if I could give you the pathway of your hand, the way it should slide. When you're doing this, it should be sliding up. As you're coming around, it should be sliding sideways so that you can get that around. And then it should be sliding around. So you're going to go basically up, sideways, and then like this.